On this Monday edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, it's part 2 of our conversations about Coastal Championship Wrestling. Nelio Costa is on the show today to take us behind the scenes of all things CCW. Here we go. The bomb drops now. Welcome to another edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I'm Chris Belcher, your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting. Thanks for hanging out with us. And back with me, as always, is the whole podcasting show, my right-hand man, my brother from another mother, Jared Justice. What's the haps, man?
How is it going, my brother?
Well, you know, I'm living the dream. Don't wake me up. Hence the sarcasm in my voice, right?
Yes. Yes.
Man, how's it going? Back for another edition, talking more about CCW Coastal Championship Wrestling. Last week with Bo Tavian, we had a blast. If you have not checked out that interview, please make sure that you do that in our archives. Jared, I had a lot of fun. I know you did too.
Oh man, yeah. Just like I said before, man. It was really cool talking to Bo, and he has a good personality, man. Me and him gave each other crap back and forth, and I think it made for a good time. So
I think this week is going to be no different, though. But before we get to Nelio, we got to take care of a little business. I flashed Jared's social media up there on the screen. If you're watching, he is at JWJust01 on Instagram. You can follow me at Chris Belcher 24. Right there it is. If you are just listening to us on traditional audio formats, we appreciate you doing that as well. Make sure you subscribe, give us a 5-star review. All those things. We are available on all of the major podcast platforms. And if you're watching us on YouTube, thanks for doing that. Again, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That way you can see our beautiful smiling faces twice a week. So make sure you do that. Hit that subscribe button. That way that all the new episodes come to your device and you get an alert. Make sure that you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at PBW Podcast. And if that's not enough, make sure that you go buy a t-shirt from us at prowrestlingtees.com/PBW podcast. You can get a great design just like this one. There's a couple more designs up there. Just make sure you check those out. It is a great way to support the show. Now that all that business is taken care of, it is time to welcome our special guest. Like I said, last week we had Bo Tavian on. He gave us a great wrestler perspective. And this week, we're going to the promoter perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nelio Costa, the promoter, owner, head honcho, Coastal Championship Wrestling. How's it going, man?
It feels good. You know, it's important that you had Bo before me because, you know, like an opening act before the main event, before the real star, you know, you need to get a little bit of a primer so we don't have to go back to all the, like, you know, the simple things that he spoke about. I'm sure we can get right into the meat of things, you know?
I wouldn't even call it an opening act, okay? He's like beneath opening act.
I can't wait to hear from Bo when this interview airs. Let me just tell you.
Did you interview Bo pre-dyed hair or post-dyed hair?
Post-dyed hair.
So it was probably pretty interesting, right?
It was pretty interesting. The Bohawk. Yeah,
the Bohawk with the blue. There's like a hint of blue in there. It's pretty interesting.
We got the alfalfa.
Black and blue.
I'm just saying.
But it's so great to be here on the Pipe Bomb. Chris, you know, we've known each other. You were there at the CCW. You're a great guy. And then now, you know, we can be friends as well. So
that's right.
I'm very excited to be on. Really excited to be on.
Absolutely,
and
man.
As a teenager, I used to make pipe bombs in my basement. So this is such a great,
it all comes full circle, man. It all comes full circle.
Full circle, man.
Especially in the world of wrestling. Yes, I was there. Very much enjoyed myself.
I was bullied a lot in high school and stuff. But anyway, we don't have to talk about that.
No, we'll get there. We'll get there.
I don't know that.
We'll get there. No, I was at the CCW show in Nashville back in February. It was at the end of the week of Blizzard, but we made it happen. It was great. It was freezing cold in there, but it was a lot of fun. Brian Cage had an awesome main event.
Right.
Some awesome other action that went on, and some more awesome action going on this coming Saturday, May the 15th. Back in Nashville, Coastal Championship Wrestling for LuchaMania II. We're going to get to the card in just a little bit.
But before we go to the card, how crazy was that? Is that it's the coldest it's been in Nashville in like 15 years.
Yep.
We got the ring truck stuck like 3 or 4 times.
Yep.
I'm literally Brian's telling me like, nobody's gonna come. Nobody's gonna come to this thing. Like it's freaking cold, I'm buying heaters. I'm thinking this thing's gonna be a disaster. And about 280 strong in Nashville during a blizzard. So that shows that Nashville actually cares about professional wrestling as opposed to most cities. So that was awesome. I mean, it was a horrible. Man, I never want to go through that experience logistically again in the cold, wrestling in the cold. And we had a seminar with like 40 wrestlers, and it was freezing. We didn't have the heaters yet, but this time it's May 15th. So let's hope that this week that suddenly the global warming or climate change catches up. Right. We don't have another blizzard on May 15th.
I mean, it's Nashville, Tennessee, so the weather changes just like you change your underwear.
For sure.
I don't know what's going to happen. We will have to see coming up this Saturday. But man, let's talk about that real quick because this is something I never got a chance to ask you. This is not in our format of questions. I'm throwing you a curveball here. How did we get CCW to Nashville? Talk about that connection. How did you get here?
It's a great question. I have no idea, man. No, I just woke up one day and I was just like, I was throwing darts at a map. So Coastal Championship Wrestling, we've been the professional wrestling leader in Florida for the last 17 years. We call ourselves the last territory. We run every day. We have a show tomorrow. Not every day. We run a lot. We have a show tomorrow for Cinco de Mayo at the Boca Black Box Theater.
Yeah.
We have shows coming up, and then on the 15th we're up in Nashville. On the 16th we have a show in our facility. So we're doing a split crew for Nashville. But
oh man,
I'm in business. I'm in the granite business. So
that's why we were at Helios Granite. Okay.
Of course, exactly. You change
that makes sense.
Change the N to an H, brother, and it's what it is. So yeah, we I thought it was a great opportunity. We moved half of the granite. That was our third show. Unbelievable. It was our third show there. And funny enough, we had Sabu, we had Super Crazy for the first one. The first one was a complete rain out. And then we had Sabu, which was an amazing show, but we got a little bit of trouble because all you Nashvillians up there, you don't like to wear your mask. So
surprise, right?
People watch Alex Ocean and Sabu, and there's 50 comments how people in Nashville don't wear masks.
Dude, I was not at that show. I watched that match on YouTube. Holy crazy, smoke. Right? That match was crazy.
And it's funny because it's always the same with Sabu. He's a friend of the company and he works with us a lot. But it's always the same where you see Sabu, you pick him up at the airport, and he needs to sleep on a wooden table, and he needs to spread his back out and all that type of fun stuff. And you're looking at him and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be. And then all of a sudden that music starts, doom, 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 and he just wakes up and he becomes Sabu from 1997, and he has amazing matches still.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was really, really, it was really, really crazy. So he did a great job, and he helped us a lot. And then obviously the Machine Brian Cage with us last time. I mean, here's an exclusive I'm going to announce right here on the show. Nobody knows this. We're already going to be announcing our return to Nashville at this show, August 28th, and it's Brian Cage versus Davey Richards as our main event, August 28th. Right. So you can say it's an exclusive. I'll send you the poster, and you guys because I haven't announced it yet. So
we will share it.
He loved Nashville so much. He has a great relationship with Impact Wrestling. I'm just kidding. So he would love to be in and around Nashville, and I think he would love to wrestle anybody like Davey Richards. Hopefully, eventually, someone like Rich Swann. Throw some other names out there that there's some negotiations. But Brian will be back 8/28. But let's talk about LuchaMania. We have Tom Latimer, who's actually one of the nicest human beings that I've met in wrestling. He's so funny and so charismatic. And he has a history with our champion, El Jefe Santos. They good friends together when Tom was in WWE Developmental. They were both in the Orlando area, worked out together. They've always wanted to have a match together, but they never, their paths never really crossed. Santos had his WWE tryout. He had offers from some other companies, larger companies, but he never had his opportunity to wrestle Tom Latimer, and Tom wants that belt. So he wants his belt, and that's going to be the match May 15th, and it's going to be really interesting because Thomas has notified the NWA that there are some companies that he wants to be able to have the ability to work for on a regular basis. We're one of them. So hopefully, if and when he defeats Santos on the 15th, we can have some interesting title matches with Tom Latimer. But if Santos keeps the belt, obviously he's the icon, the workhorse for CCW. So.
I mean, just the stuff that I've seen of Santos, he is incredible. He is really, really good. And I actually got to see Latimer, who formerly known as Bram. In other circles. So I got to see him.
Would have been cool if he stuck it out with the Ascension, huh? It was like Connor and Bram and stuff. That would have been real. He would have been the breakout single star.
Right.
Things happen, obviously. It didn't work out for him. But he's exactly where he needed to be now.
Yep. I got to see him back in October before the pandemic hit. I got to see him and Tommy Dreamer in a hardcore match in Nashville. Nice. And that one, they fought like right in front of me, and it was this crazy thing. But yeah, that was at the fairgrounds in Nashville. So that was really cool. That really leads me into you've done a really nice job, whether you know it or not, of leading me into some of the questions that I have. But we may be all over the place.
I'm a professional, Chris. I've done this a few times, brother. Oh, just kidding.
So that leads me into, you've talked about Thomas Latimer, you talked about Sabu, some of the other guys that you guys have worked with. Throw out some other names that some of our listeners might be more familiar with that has a great relationship with CCW.
So, I mean, people like to, they're like, wow, CCW, it's funny because a lot of people are like, yeah, I've heard of CCW years ago, or I've seen them, and then now they're back or whatever. And it's funny is because in 2004, the American Dream, Dustin Rhodes, his son, was let go from the WWE. Dusty Rhodes was living in Florida, wanted to create the Florida territory again. So Dusty Rhodes was kind of the, for my business partner, the founder, still one of my best friends, whatever in the world, Dan Ackerman. They came to them and they said, hey, we're going to do some stuff together. Well, that lasted about 8 months, where Dusty Rhodes is supposed to be the booker, and Dustin Rhodes was one of the first CCW heavyweight champions. He was heavyweight champion for about a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So that was kind of what propelled CCW into being that Florida territory, run a bunch of small towns up and down the coast, et cetera, et cetera. So you had guys like Cahagas, MVP coming out of prison. He was Antonio Banks. He was the champion there. He had a key to the training facility. He really got himself back on his feet. To this day, he considers CCW his home. We had signed his what was going to be his retirement match last year in December, and we were really excited for it. And he said he's done. He wants to retire. And then in January of that year, previously, he was hired by the WWE, and now he's the man. Which is crazy too, because he's been back, but unfortunately he can't appear at a CCW show because of his contract. I'd love for him to try to get around that, because other people have before. But that being said, you have guys like MVP, obviously Dustin Rhodes holding the title for so long. Dusty Rhodes, was really the catalyst. He was in tag matches with Dusty. We had the Dudley Boys for a long time as regulars. This was before. Now today, I mean, we look for those guys and those matchups. It's really about matchups and independence. People want to see Davey Richards and Brian Cage, Rich Swann and Brian Cage. They want to see, Leo Rush and Too Cold Scorpio or whatever, those matchups. Yeah. So there's that. But what we love about CCW, what I love about CCW is we have someone like Santos who you can't go see anywhere else.
Yep.
And when people see him, they're like, this guy's so good. Why is he not in WWE? And it's because he is, luckily for us, he has a great job working. He doesn't want to pursue professional wrestling, but he was always our guy. So it was, he loves to work for us 8 times a year, 9 times a year, but he's not a guy who's actively looking for, I had some bigger companies call me interested in Santos, and I called him and he's like, yeah, tell him I'm happy working where he's working,
Wow.
So it's cool, it's cool because you have that guy, But what I love about CCW is we have Cha-Cha Charlie, Alex Ocean, Jackal. We have all of these characters that are huge in South Florida and in and around where we run. But then it's cool to bring them out into other places where like people have not seen them very much. So we have these, like, we have kind of a group of guys that are ready to explode. You know, obviously a guy like Alex Ocean, who trained at the CCW training facility, and now he's been everywhere, done everything, but he's still with us. He still wrestles with us 4 times a month. So we have those guys that are those hometown guys, but then we're bringing in a guy like a Davey Richards and Brian Cage and Matthew Justice was at AIW up in Cleveland this weekend and wrestled a little bit for them. It's so crazy because Justice is kind of a heel in Florida, and he's like a super baby face in Cleveland. Like everybody, he's the whole. And I said to him, I was like, "Oh, you're their Cha Cha Charlie." And he's like, "No, Cha Cha Charlie's you're Matt Justice." So it was one of those things where it's like, oh, it's awesome to see, you know. And then obviously I forget, you know, Fonzie works for us. He works for us in the office. He's a manager for us. He helps with creative. He's there all the time. So when people see like guys like Bill Alfonso and Sabu, Blue Demon Jr., super crazy, super crazy, wrestles like 10 times a year for us. He's wrestling us for tomorrow. He'll be there awesome. LuchaMania. He'll be there Bash of the Brood June 5th. So we have those guys too.
That's awesome. Talk about Ariel Levy and Jake St. Patrick, because those are two guys who are just absolutely really crafty and really skilled at what they do in the ring, and have made several appearances on AEW Dark. You know, talk about what that means to CCW to have those guys.
Yeah, I mean, Ariel Levy is one of my best friends in the world. Like, he's such a great guy. He's so ready for television. And we're ready to lose him. Unfortunately, we're about to be probably ready to lose him. And then of course you have Jake, who has made a splash. You know, he has basically an open invitation for All Elite Wrestling. He's there every week. I don't know what, in terms of when they're back on the road, what his contract status looks like exactly, but I'm getting ready to be ready to lose him too. But that's the part of independent wrestling, is you want those guys. Like, you want to be the guys who gave platforms to guys to go to huge companies and go to All Elite Wrestling and WWE. Ariel's a whole different story because he's one of the most famous human beings in Chile. In the top 5 as an actor. He has movies on Netflix. He's friends with huge actors and actresses and professional wrestlers and stuff like that. And he chose to forego very lucrative acting roles to train as a professional wrestler and to work at Coastal Championship Wrestling for the last, since the December, January. Just such a long time. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
He's been with us for so long. And, you know, when that day comes, it's not if it comes, but when that day comes, when he signs with a major company, it's going to be sad, but it's going to be good too. Those guys are, if you're listening at home, just put in YouTube, Ariel Levy, ARIEL space LEVY, and you can watch any of his matches. They're awesome with his tag team partner. And then Jake St. Patrick, I mean, you watch All Elite Wrestling every week, and you can watch him getting kicked in the head by one of the Dark Order or something like that. And it's good. Yeah. It's a good thing.
It's also good. I mean,
I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. We had Montoya. We had Montoya, who was with us for a little bit. He went to AEW. Mm-hmm. We're also bringing in Lila Gray, who's a normal, a regular for All Elite Wrestling. She's going to be a regular for us because she lives down there. And then Hedy Caraway. There might be something in his future. He's been with us now for 3 months. He's been a trainer as a shoot. He's a Olympic level wrestler. And now there's something with that. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it. I don't want to screw up his spot.
Listen, well, you can say whatever you want to, but don't hold me responsible.
Yeah, good things. Good things happening for that guy. Wink, wink. That's all I'm going to say.
There you go. That's what we say. All right, man. So it's clear that by the way that you're talking about all these guys, that, you know, you would not be in the business of professional wrestling if you weren't a fan, just like us.
Sure.
I mean, this podcast, like I said, is for the fans, by the fans. And that's what we do here. We're just wrestling fans. We like to talk about wrestling. So one of the things that we ask all of our guests, especially our first-time guests, is what drew you into professional wrestling? How did you become a wrestling fan?
So it was probably 1992, 91, end of 91. I was maybe 3 years old approximately. Mm-hmm. And Survivor Series, Undertaker defeated Hulk Hogan with the Ric Flair cage chair thing, and I was freaking out. And then when Hulk beat Undertaker in the backslide Tuesday in Texas, that was insane. And then I hated Ric Flair, and then that was it. I was just going. At that point, I knew I was going to become a professional wrestler. So I always say, like, when did you start wrestling? I said, when I was 4 years old, and I would just clothesline my cousins and tombstone pile driver and shark.
We did that.
Jared, how many times did you tombstone pile driver choke slam me? I mean, come on, right?
Oh yeah,
I can't even count.
Exactly.
A million, right?
About as many times as I put you in the sharpshooter and you tapped out, right?
No, and my family thought it was weird. Well, it's funny because I watched Rocky. I watched Rocky before professional wrestling. So when people would ask me when I was like 4 years old, 3 years old, like, what do you mean to be a boxer? And then obviously when wrestling came, it's like, oh, you can kick, you can choke, you can slam.
Yeah.
And then they put me in Taekwondo. I became a black belt in Taekwondo. And then I actually tried a lot of combat sports until I was into my 20s. Then became, actually wrestled and stuff. It was crazy because it was like I can track a linear path literally from Hulk Hogan and then being obsessed with Bret Hart and then being so upset with all that BS that happened with Bret Hart in late 90s.
Oh, okay. Wait, sidebar, because this is a hot topic on our podcast. Jared knows where I'm going with this. This is a hot topic on our podcast. The Montreal screw job. Is it a work or is it a shoot?
It's a shoot. You know what's funny? I always laugh about this because like the only people who have really said that it's a work has been Scott Hall. Yep. And if you know Scott Hall, I guarantee you, he's like, this is what he did in the interview. He's like, I think it had to be a work. It had to be. And then as soon as the camera went off, he's just like, oh man, that's going to get a lot of headlines, brother. That's going to be awesome. He wasn't even there at the time. Here's why I don't think it's a. That's why I think it's a shoot. There's two reasons. Is that you had Vince Russo, Bruce Pritchard, Gerald Briscoe, Pat Patterson, HBK, Triple H, probably a couple other people who knew that this was happening, right?
Right.
So at different points in time, some of these people have been out of the company, against the company, and none of them have said, "Hey, by the way, it was a work," which would be the perfect thing to say to blow up the spot. And the second thing is Bret Hart really believes that wrestling is real. And as much as, the loss of his brother Owen killed his spirit, I really feel this Montreal Screwjob really killed his spirit. He walked into WCW a shell of a man. So if it was a work, I mean, Bret Hart's the great is Laurence Olivier,
That's very true. I hadn't thought about it that way because Bret is so serious about the wrestling business,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I hear
really
today because you can book Bret Hart to like do a sharpshooter on a guy and just take give someone a clothesline. It's like you can book him to sign autographs and he'll do a spot. And I hear even today the spots better be logical, otherwise he won't. So that's a guy like a guy in his 60s. Imagine Bret in his 30s.
That's hilarious. So, in case you have missed it, this is the Bite Bomb Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Belcher. You can find us every Monday and Thursday, not Wednesday. I said that wrong earlier. Monday and Thursday, wherever you find your podcast. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on social media. I am at Chris Belcher 24. Jared is at JWJust01. We are at PBW Podcast on all of the major platforms. And with us this week, myself, Jared, and CCW promoter, head guy, head honcho, Mr. Nelio Costa. And we're talking all things professional wrestling, both about the promoting side and just about how we're wrestling fans. And Nelio, like we just talked about, we talked about Bret Hart, we talked about the screw job, we talked about all that kind of stuff. It is clear that you are a fan of old school wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
But being in the business of professional wrestling, is there any current stuff that you watch on a regular basis?
Oh,
and
man,
what are your thoughts on
putting me in a spot? I used to watch All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah.
Actually, I try to watch AEW Dark, not just because, there's people out there I'm good friends with who wrestle on it on a regular basis.
Sure.
Just because it's good to see who's new. and stuff like that. I used to watch All Elite Wrestling. I used to watch Raw and SmackDown with a fast forward button on the DVR. So I used to watch it, but like on a very quick version of it, like fast forward everything. As soon as I saw something interesting, I would stop or whatever. But it's so funny you say this because with very few exceptions, it's hard to watch current wrestling for me. And I guess that's a big problem.
Yeah. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a big problem. I just the point that I asked Bo this last week. If you haven't checked out our interview with Bo Tavian, we had a blast.
And let me guess, he watches everything. He watches Ring of Honor and Impact and everything.
Well,
he said he did.
He did not give any specifics, but what he said is he feels like it's really important to watch the current stuff to keep up with what's currently going on so that you can shape your craft. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Okay, I mean, there's two ways to look at it. Like, if you're looking at it as a professional wrestler, like, sure. I mean, you want to watch as much wrestling as possible so you can steal as much as possible.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Right?
There is nothing new under the sun. That's definitely
so you're like, oh, this guy did this, steal it or whatever. But, it's hard. It's hard because I still haven't found professional wrestling that has eclipsed, Jim Crockett, the NWA from 86 to 89. So, or
that's what we're talking about right there.
Yeah. Yes. Or Paul Heyman in that like early middle part of ECW. So when I do have time, I do run a business. I have a full-time wrestling company. I have a 14-month-old daughter who's amazing. I've got
you got a lot on your plate. I get it.
I got a pool that I need to spend some time in, brother. I do got to work out. I still got to work out. I have a gym in my house, and I can barely walk 20 steps to go work out every day. But that being said, when I do want to watch professional wrestling, it's really hard to be like, let me throw on SmackDown.
Yeah.
It's like, I have time to watch wrestling. Well, Starrcade 87 is amazing. I'll just watch that again. Or, I'll just go through ECW TV, hardcore TVs, and steal ideas from that because that's really good stuff. No, but that being said, I was at WrestleMania. I was at both days of WrestleMania. We were there. It was me, Ariel, Cha-Cha Charlie, a couple of our guys. We got to sat behind the hard cam. We had to get to be around the place and meet different people and all that stuff. So that was really cool. That was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it was funny because you walk in. And then you see all these wrestlers there, like some of the guys, some of the people who work for me were the bunnies, and some other people were doing other stuff. And then we were literally, we were supposed to be hanging out, but like I shouldn't even say this, but like how they had that like social distancing thing.
Yeah.
So they were like putting twist ties on the seats, So like literally, I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to stand here the whole time. So I'm like. I'm stopping seats open, like breaking twist ties, and we're sitting behind the hard cam for 2 days of WrestleMania.
That's awesome.
Getting, drinking White Claws and stuff. And that was actually really fun. But what was really fun is I came in completely like blank.
Yeah.
Like I knew who Bad Bunny was, and I knew it was really cool to like, oh, this is like there's people on the show I've never seen before.
Right.
So that was actually really cool. And the show was great.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably the only one who knew who Bad Bunny was. I'm just kidding. Total joke. At least on this podcast.
I really did.
Ariel loves Bad Bunny. He's telling me he's like the biggest star in the world right now. And I was like, I don't know. I barely heard of him before.
Full disclosure, I think I said this on our WrestleMania live stream afterwards. The only thing I know about Bad Bunny is like he's the most downloaded artist on Spotify right now or something like that. And he just won a Latin Grammy, and that's about it. That's my knowledge.
So, Roma, who was our women's champion for some time, she's wonderful. She had this gimmick with putting bunny ears on.
Yeah.
And she was calling herself the Bad Bunny Crew and stuff. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is before Bad Bunny went to WrestleMania. She's like, oh, no, you're going to see.
Right.
Because, like, they had already leaked 6 months earlier that Bad Bunny was going to, like, be part of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
So she was just waiting for it to happen before the Rumble or whatever. And I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's funny if you go back to our YouTube, it literally made zero sense to me in full honesty. But now I realize like she was trying to get, Bad Bunny to reach out to her or something.
That's really funny. So speaking of Roma, we're going to get to the Nashville card here in just a minute.
Let's talk about it.
Before we get there, though, we were talking about current product and how much you watch. For all of you who are listening to our podcast, who watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW, whatever, all that's great, but you want to make sure to check out CCW's YouTube channel, Coastal Championship Wrestling, a live wrestling every Tuesday. Let me just tell you, you will not be disappointed. It's some of the best independent wrestling you will watch, and that's not me saying that because the owner is sitting right in front of me. Like I'm just telling you, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near the guy. I mean, we're on the screen, but he's miles away. He can talk as much.
That's it.
Tonight's episode, where Marina power bombs Christy James onto a concrete floor.
Oh man,
I was like, it's one of those things where it was just like, wow, that match was great. Both, I said it earlier, both Christy James and Marina. Marina was one of the bunnies at WrestleMania, and
yeah,
I'm sure that there's, she's destined to be signed eventually. And Christy James should have been signed by All Elite Wrestling. She was one of All Elite Wrestling's most popular women in the beginning, before they were even doing dark. She had the Sheeta's first title match was against Christy James.
I don't think I realized that. That's really cool.
So she everyone was like, she's ready, she's a star. And I mean, I've talked to her a few times why that didn't happen, but it's she should be there. But that match was awesome. And in front of, luckily we live in Florida, so in front of about 300 people at the Unbranded Brewing Company in Hialeah, screaming maniacs. We had 400 last Saturday.
That's awesome.
Those matches, like if you compare it to the Thunderdome or whatever,
right?
Or like 100 people, like golf clapping on AEW or whatever. It's
right.
Something else,
Right. I mean, it makes a difference, man. When I was at CCW in Nashville, having a crowd there made a world of difference. I mean, it brought me back to the times of going to old Smoky Mountain Wrestling shows when I was growing up, with people heckling guys and all this other stuff. It was great, man. It really was.
Who would do that?
And we don't even serve alcohol, and half of the audience was drunk. I don't know what you're
I know.
I was just like, what's happening here? Like, everyone here is wasted. Like, what's up with Nashville?
I noticed this
8:00.
I noticed the same thing. Hey man, listen, it's 5:00 somewhere, but in Nashville it's 5:00 at all times because the bars are always open. So do yourself a favor. Do yourself a favor. If you're listening to this podcast, check out Coastal Championship Wrestling's YouTube channel. There's a ton of great matches that are on there. Make sure you check those out. Before we sign off, Nelio, let's run down the card for this Saturday's show, LuchaMania II, live at Helios Granite in Nashville, Tennessee, May 15th. Again, we said Thomas Latimer and El Jefe Santos for the heavyweight championship. You mentioned Roma.
The first time ever, the OVW Women's Championship will be defended in a Coastal Championship.
I was going to ask if the title was on the line.
The title is on the line. I know El Snow is pissed about it. He did not okay this. He did not okay this at all.
That's
I
incredible.
thought it was, but if you know Hollywood Haley J, she doesn't care. She wants to wrestle Christy James. Christy James says, you better put that title on the line if you want a shot to wrestle me. And there it was. And then when El Snow found out about it, what is it's better to ask
for forgiveness and permission
instead of permission. So that the first time that's ever happening, hopefully El's not too upset at us because we love El Snow. We brought him in before. But yeah, the first time an OVW championship will be defended in Coastal Championship Wrestling, which is cool.
Yep, that's very awesome. And Marina Tucker and Roma
and
for
so
the CCW Women's Championship.
So Roma and Marina, Roma beat Marina for the Women's Championship in like November or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Marina wins it back at Anniversary 17 in a 3-way women's ladder match, which is one of the best ladder matches I've ever seen. These girls killed each other.
Why is that match not on YouTube?
Oh, because you got to pay for that match. I'm kidding. That match was...
I want to see that match.
It's so
can't come to Florida. I want to see it.
So premium. No, that was one of the best ladder matches. Not women's ladder matches. One of the best ladder matches I've ever seen. So here it is. Roma, she gets her return because the Go Hard Life twins, they let's just say that they interjected themselves into that ladder match. So Roma gets her opportunity. So that's just going to be great. We also have Beast Man. I don't know if you know Beast Man, 400 pounds. He's crazy, husk. He's wrestling Agony. Agony is a former CCW heavyweight champion, and just two bad dudes.
Agony. I've seen some stuff from Agony. He's got a cool gimmick. I like it.
And look, he's 300 pounds. He can do a moonsault off the second rope. He can do a running moonsault. I've been in the ring with Agony. I've trained with Agony for years, and he's just a freak of nature.
So Super Crazy is also going to be at LuchaMania II, and I'm not going to ask you to disclose what he's going to be doing, but what I will say is on social media, you are promoting a seminar before the show, just like Brian Cage did in Nashville. Talk about how important, real quick before we sign off, how important those seminars are for leading up to your CCW shows and having a guy like Brian Cage or like Super Crazy running those seminars.
So you have someone like Super Crazy who's opened doors, he opens doors for people. Brian Cage is known for opening doors for people. If you want to get on AEW Dark, if he watches, if you're on a show with Brian Cage and he sees your match and you crush it, he's going to go up to you, he's going to talk to you, he's going to get your contact information. And that's very rare. And Super Crazy is the same way. I have my own personal story with Super Crazy where they needed a big mean monster down in Mexico for Dr. Wagner Jr.'s company, and he recommended Vinicius to go and do the angle and do some stuff. So you're gonna learn a lot, but it's also like if you're a wrestler who's you do it, you're out there every weekend, and let's say you're the best guy in a small town. Here's the thing about Florida is AEW's in Florida, WWE's in Florida, a bunch of companies are in Florida. When wrestlers want to go to the next step, they move to Florida, right? So there's just tons of wrestlers in Florida. But let's say you're the best wrestler in Lexington, Kentucky. Let's say you're the best wrestler in Huntsville, Alabama. Well, you're not going to get the same looks. So when you have a chance to, and something like wrestling in Mexico interests you, and let's say you're really, really good, come to the seminar because Super Crazy is going to see you. And if you're not a great wrestler and you're still learning, let's say you're at a Tom Pritchard school, which is, I think, one of the best schools in the country. Or
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Or if you're in Crimson School, which is a great school, one of the best schools, you're going to learn their styles. I learned my trainer's style was very different than a big man style. So I needed to go, I learned how to wrestle from one of the best wrestlers of all time. But what it was is you need to go and learn other styles. When I got in the ring with a guy like Ricky Marvin and he's showing me what, Masawa or Kenta Kobashi or Scott Norton did to him in the ring, it's a completely different thing than learning, just a certain American style or a small wrestler style. So, you're going to learn a lot of stuff, but come to Super Crazy and he'll teach you a lot of the Mexican style. Come to Brian Cage and he'll give you a good look and he'll tell you what you need to do to get into All Elite Wrestling or what type of situation you need to be in. So those are just gold. Those are just gold.
It's invaluable training, man. I got to watch Brian Cage's seminar, and just as a wrestling fan, getting to watch it was really cool the way that he took the time for everybody. So if you are an aspiring wrestler that you're in the Nashville area, come to this seminar. 100%. Registration is available on all of CCW's social media pages. Make sure to check it out. May 15th at Helios Granite. I think the seminar starts at what? At 3? Is that right?
2:00. I think now it's 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. So
be there stretched at 2 o'clock. Crazy will get you going at 3.
There you go. So come check it out. Make sure you register on all, check out all of CCW's social media stuff. Nelio, tell them where to find all those social media stuff. And again, remind them about the Alive Wrestling show.
So Alive Wrestling every Tuesday night on the YouTube. That's youtube.com/Coastal Championship Wrestling. To get the tickets to anything, you see our upcoming schedule. It's incredibly busy. It's ccwrestlingfl.com. Okay. So for instance, to the seminar, one last thing is, we have guys that work for Impact Wrestling that work our show. We have guys who work for other companies. So you want to just be around and show your stuff to those guys as well. That being said, ccwrestlingfl.com if you're a wrestler. If you are looking to buy tickets, it's ccwrestlingfl.com. LuchaMania II. For our social media, it's Twitter, /CCWFL. For Instagram, it's at CCW Training Facility. And then on Facebook, which is our main thing, we just throw everything up on the Facebook. It's facebook.com/CCW events. But just search Coastal Championship Wrestling, and you're going to see a lot of stuff about them and myself and what we do. And, we're there May 15th. We're back the 28th of August.
August 28th, Brian Cage. There it is.
And Davey Richards. It's gonna be awesome. And he's gonna do another seminar as well. He picked 4 guys. We're like, for instance, the super crazy thing. 2 guys are supposed to wrestle on the show. He picked 4 because he thought there was 4 really, really good guys. I thought there was 6 really good guys, but I said, can we do 4? Because we don't want to pay 6 guys. But like,
I get it.
But yeah, please check us out. And if you're in Florida, come check us out. We run everywhere, Miami, up into Fort Pierce, over to Naples. We're the last territory. CCW, ccwrestlingfl.com. And you'll see guys that will be on Monday or Wednesday or Friday, but you'll get to see them in a more intimate setting and check out a live wrestling.
There it is. So check out Nelio Costa, CCW, Coastal Championship Wrestling, all of those places that he just gave you. Nelio, man, I appreciate you being on. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you guys on the 15th. We'll get you in that show. We'll get you something.
I'll see you there. I'll see you there for all of our fans.
Chris,
make
be
sure
ready to take a pile driver, brother.
Listen, I'm on it. Just don't mess up my hair. Okay.
Hey, no problem.
As long as you don't mess up my hair, I'm good.
I got big thighs. We're good.
Okay. So for all of you who are listening that have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, what the heck are you waiting for? Make sure you do it. We are at PBW Podcast on all the major platforms. We are available wherever you find your podcast every Monday and Thursday now. So make sure you check us out. For Mr. Nelio Costa, for my brother from another mother, Jared Justice, giving the old Larry Sabisco wave, we are signing off. This is the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, and we will catch you guys down the road.